tang ekang samayang bhagava Savantiyang viharati jetavane anatha pindikansa arame Atako anyatara devata abhinkantaya rantiya abhinkantavanna Kevalakampang jetavanang obasenva Yena bhagavate nupasankami Upasankaminva bhagavantang abhivadenva Ekamantang antasi Ekamantang titakosa devata Bhagavantang gataya anjabasi Bahudeva manunsaca mangalani acintayung Akangkamana sontanang brohi mangalamuntamang Asevanaca balanang panditanang ca sevana Puja ca pujaniyanang itang mangalamuntamang Patirupadesa vasoca pumbija kata punyata Anta samma panidija etang mangalamuntamang Bahu sancanca simpanca vinayo ca susinkito Subhasita jaya vaca etang mangalamuntamang Mata pitu upantanang puntadaran sesanggaho Anakula ca kammanta etang mangalamuntamang Dananca dhammacariya ca nyatakananca sanggaho Anavanjani kammani etang mangalamuntamang Arati virati papa manjapana ca sanyamo Ampamado ca dhammesu etang mangalamuntamang Garavo ca nivato ca santunti ca katang yuta Halena dhamma savanang etang mangalamuntamang Khanti ca sovacansata samananang ca dansanang Khalena dhamma sakanca etang mangalamuntamang Tapoca brahmacariyanca ariya sancana dansanang Nibbana sancikiriyaca etang mangalamuntamang Puntang seloka dhammi cintang yansana kampati Asokang virajang kemang etang mangalamuntamang Eta disani kanvana සම්බන්තමපරාජිතා සම්බන්ත සොන්තිං ගච්ඡන්ති තං තේසං මංගල මුත්තමන්ති ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං ඒතේන සංච වංජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං කරණීය මන්ත කුසලේන යන්තං සන්තං පදං අභිසමිච්ඡ සක්ඛෝජුච සුජුච සුවචෝ චංස මුදු අනතිමානි සන්තුන්සකෝච සුභරෝච අම්පකින්චෝච සල්ලහුකවුන්ති සන්තින්ද්‍රියෝච නිපකෝච අම්පගම්බෝ කුලේසු අනුනුගින්දෝ නච කුන්දං සමාචරේ කිංචි යේන විඤ්ඤූ පරේ උපවදෙය්‍යං සුඛිනෝ වාකේමිනෝ හන්තු සම්බේ සන්තා භවන්තු සුඛිතන්තා ඒකේචිපාන භූතන්ති තසවාතාවරාවා අනවසේසා දීඝාවායේ මහන්තාවා මංජිමාරංසකානුකතුලා දිත්ථාවායේව අන්දින්තා යේච දුරේ වසන්ති අවිදුරේ භූතාවා සම්භවේසීවා සම්බේ සන්තා භවන්තු සුඛිතන්තා නපරෝ පරං නිකුම්බේත ඥාති මඤ්ඤේත කන්ත චිනං කංචි ව්‍යාරෝසනා පටික සංඥා ඥාඤ්ඤ මඤ්ඤංස දුක්ඛ මිච්ඡේය මාතා යතානියං පුන්තං ආයුසා ඒක පුන්ත මනුරංකේ ඒවම්පි සම්බභූතේසු මාන සංභාවයේ අපරිමාණ මෙත්තංච සම්බලෝකස්මින් මාන සංභාවයේ අපරිමාණ උන්දං අදෝච තිරියංච අසංභාදං අවේරං අසපත්තං තින්ඨංචරං නිසින්නෝවා සයානෝවායාවතන්ස විගතමින්දෝ ඊතං සතින් අදින්ඨේය බ්‍රහ්මමේතං විහාරං ඉදමාෝ දින්ඨින්ච අනුපගම්ම සීලවා දන්සනේන සම්පන්නෝ කාමේසු විනය්‍යගේදං නහි ජාතු ගම්බසේයං පුනරේති. එවං මේ සුතං ඒකං සමයං භගවා සාවන්තියං විහරති ජේතවනේ අනාථ පින්ඩිකංස ආරාමේ අතකෝ අඤ්ඤතරා දේවතා අබින්කන්තාය රන්තියා අබින්කන්තවන්නා කේවල කම්පං ජේතවනං ඕවාසෙන්වා යේන භගවාතේනුපසංකමී උපසංකමින්වා භගවන්තං අභිවාදෙන්වා ඒකමන්තං අන්තාසී.
Namo Buddhaya, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Very good morning to everyone. Wishing you well and happy. Nice to see many of you have a relock-in early in the morning. Wishing each other in the comment box. Well done. Give us a like as we go along. And I must say is that today is a fine day, and I'm sure all of you are here to follow the Dhamma talk and the Puja service. Well done, and I hope that many of you are sharing this event with an external speaker or on over to your smart TV. Well, during this online Buddha Puja service, let us all have a calm mind. Join us for the Puja chanting and until to the dedications of merits. Namo Buddhaya, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Welcome to Subang Jaya Buddhist Association 87th online Sunday Buddha Puja service. Good, great that all of you are following us weekly to listen to the chanting, puja, Dhamma sharing, and the dedication of merits. Let us prepare ourselves by sitting comfortably, relax our bodies, and compose our mind. Let go of thinking about the past and future to be in the present moment. Brothers and sisters, let's begin with our Sunday Buddha Puja, making offerings to the Buddha. And those of you who are preparing the offerings at home, you may light the candles now or make the offerings to the Buddha. For the other devotees, please fold your palms together in Anjali position and contemplate mindfully. We shall now invite Brother Chim Siu Soon to proceed with the offerings to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Brothers and sisters, in the Dhamma, let us pay homage to the Triple Gem. Buddhang Pujemi, Dhammang Pujemi, Sanghang Pujemi. Namakara, salutation to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Tisarana. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. The 5 precepts. Anatipata veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Adennadana veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccachara veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapammadakana veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Imani panca sikkapadani samadhiyami. Imani panca sikkapadani Samadhiyami imani pancha sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddha Nusati. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasarati satta deva manussanang buddho bhagavati. Swakato bhagavata dhammo sandediko akaliko ehipassiko opanaiko pachattang vedidabbo vinyuhiti. Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Nyayapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Samichi patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Yadidang chattari purisa yugani atta purisa buggala Esa bhagavato savaka sangho Ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo Anjali karaniyo anuttarang punya ketang lokasati. Metta Sutta. Karaniya matta kusalena yantang santang padang abhisamecha sako uju cha suju cha suvacho cha samudu anatimani santu sako cha subaro cha appakecho cha sallahuka vutti Sandindriyo cha nipako cha appagabbo kulesu ananugido Nachakudang samachare kinchi venu vinu vare upawadeyong Sukino wa kemino hontu sabbe satta bhavantu sukitatta Ye ke chipana bhutati tasava thavarava anavasesa Digava ye mahantava majjima rasa kukanukatula Dittava yeva additta ye cha dure vasanti avidure Bhuta va sambhave siva sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta naparo parang nikubbeta nati manneta katta chinang kanji vyaro sanapatiga sanya nanya mannassa dukkamicheya Mata yathani yang putang ayusa eka putta manurakke evang pi sabba bhutesu manasang bhavaye aparimanang mettang cha sabba lokasmin manasang bhavaye aparimanang Uddang ado cha diriyang cha asang badang avirang asapatang Mata yatani yang putang ayusa eka putta manurake evang pi sabba bhutesu manasang bhavaye aparimanang Detenja anupagamma silava dasanena sampanno kamesu vinaya gedang nahi jato gabbaseyang punareti. Kamawachana. Kayena vata chittena pamadena maya katang akchayang kamame bante buripanya tathagata. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang akchayang kamame dhamma sanditika akalika. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang akchayang kamame sangha supatipanna anuttara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, in this Dhamma sharing, if you have any questions regarding the sharing, please type your question in the comment box. To those who have not listened to this morning's speaker, it is good that you prepare to have a notebook and a pencil or pen ready. Later, you can reflect on what you have learned and what you may need to do. The speaker is a selfless volunteer in several aspects of the propagation of Buddhism. He is also a co-founder of the group called iGEMS in producing Buddhist songs. The speaker is also the head of program for advancement in Dhamma leadership, PADL, which is under the Center of Research and Dhamma Leadership Advancement. In short, we call it the CRADA, which is an initiative of the Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia. The speaker has spoken several titles in over this online. There's so many of them. Well, let's welcome Dd Khoo Nee Wern to this morning Dhamma sharing. Dd Khoo Nee Wern, good morning, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Dd Chuan. Can you hear me?
Yes, wonderful to have you again. And I'm sure
Yes.
many of the listeners out there, they're very happy to have you join us and listening to all that you have to say about what we can do, what we can learn from you. Now, I noticed that you have volunteered your service to present this Dharma sharing, and from many of your previous sharing, I'm sure, from the content and the way you speak, I'm sure you have spent many hours of research and reading and preparing the slides for us. Well, I was wondering, maybe you would like to share with us what would be your advice to those who are thinking or already a volunteer right now? Example, helping in whatever capacity. Do you think that they should be encouraged to attend some form of training? Over to you.
I think your question is what can you do more and what can you do differently, right? If you're already involved in some of
Yes.
the things, the road to the road is never an easy one. Many of us volunteer because we find that there's some meaning somewhere. That's why we spend our time differently on a Sunday or on any other day of the week. And I suppose it is always good to spend the time meaningfully. I suppose the difference here is that if you were to spend your time in a place and you make yourself, feel that's a meaning to do what you do, I think that's a very good thing. That's why I'm looking forward to going back to the Buddhist centers in person, so that we can be involved in in many aspects, and not just listening to a speaker on the screen. We can be involved in the kitchen. We can be involved in preparations of the offerings. We can be involved in even ushering, even arranging the footwear. In the temple is a very meaningful thing to do. And apart from getting things organized, there are many things that can be done. And I think for many of us who have been given the opportunity to do so, and those of you who are aspiring to do so, it's good to get out of our comfort zone once in a while and do something that we have not done before. Just like you, Dd Chuan, you have stepped out of your comfort areas and do what what the path less trodden, or the path less taken, and not just say, okay, I'm just volunteering my time, but you have taken the step to now do this online a talk and getting it organized. And I believe in many more aspects as well. So yeah, stepping out of the comfort areas, doing something not done before, that's part of our own cultivation. As to whether we can be trained, yes, I think there are many aspects that many Buddhist centers can provide. That, of course, in the cradle, we do have programs that trains the leaders in various aspects to make them more skillful in Dhammadutta. So yeah, it starts from us.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It is more on ourselves. Whatever capacity we want to volunteer, we always put our heart, and effort into it. Whether we are doing it in a very short hours, it's okay. But I think we should put our heart and sweat into it and doing it proper. And as what you have said, do things differently if you can. All right, that's great. And this morning on 24th April, you mentioned the word dealing with difficult people. This topic is definitely affects every one of us. Yeah, it's everyday life. I'm sure everyone out there are waiting anxiously to hear your Dhamma sharing on this topic. Dukkha is dealing with difficult people. All right, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dd Chuan. Thank you for well, good morning, everybody. Once again, thank you, Subanjaya Buddhist Association, SJBA, for once again given me the opportunity for the Dhamma sharing. I've done several now, in this platform, and I think I've spoken on many topics, in particular relating to how we can utilize some of the lesson learned from the Buddha himself. The suttas themselves mentions many aspects of how we can live a life that is meaningful, beneficial for ourselves and for others. And I think I've given multiple areas that we can mention about how we deal with our. I think the most recent one was I talked about managing our key stakeholders in life. If you recall, those of you who've been following the term talk, how we deal with the various stakeholders and how we identify them and see that actually they are important key stakeholders and people that we need to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And by identifying them, we know that if we want to have our relationship better, we need to identify who are the ones that I need to pay attention to, and so on and so forth. And so I was thinking it's a continuation of whatever has been spoken about key stakeholders. Sometimes the key stakeholders are people that are close to us or not so close to us. Sometimes they are easy to deal with, and sometimes they are not so easy to deal with. And in particular, I'm sure all of us have experienced before, there are times where we have not much of a choice but to deal with people, whether we like them or not. People are people, they're human beings. They come into our life in various forms and capacities. Whether we are at work, we're at home, we are anywhere, somehow or other there will be people that we deal with. And there are times not everybody we deal with is the same. And we teach a lot about projecting our kindness, compassion, our understanding to others. But sometimes not necessarily those people may reciprocate in the same way. we expect them to reciprocate with the same kind of kindness, compassion, niceness, gentleness that we project to them, but there are times they don't reciprocate. And what do we do with them? And I'm sure we have those questions at the back of our mind. And so I wanted to put them into perspective and say that actually we deal with all kinds of people. I want to talk about one aspect called dealing with a little bit more challenging, people that we consider in our mind, this person, why do I have to deal with him? Why do I have to face him? What kind of bad karma have I done in my previous life that now I have to deal with this particular individual? I just wish it would be different. So we then get very easily agitated, frustrated when we have to deal with such people. And then we are being taught, have metta, have compassion and loving kindness and things like that. But then again, when you see the person's face, it's like, oh my goodness, I really can't. I just get into a very difficult and hijacking situation. So how do we do with these things? Let's see what the Buddha has to say with regard to these things. So let me give you a perspective first. Now, when we say dealing with people, let's just understand that we deal with people every day. Let's identify who are the spectrum of people that we are dealing with, right? For example, this is me. This is who you are. This is myself. And if you look at myself here, we need to deal with all the various key stakeholders. One of them is could be your spouse. Those of you who are married, you have your spouse, you have to deal with your spouse. You have to handle, you have to live with. And it's not, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not so easy. Not everybody has, finds it easy to deal with it, as somebody close to them. Then we need to deal with our relatives. And it is said that you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your relatives. Relatives come into your life whether you like it or not. Some relatives are easy, they are okay. In fact, you find that some relatives are very helpful. But there are relatives who are not only not helpful, but can be destructive, make our life difficult, make our life a misery, and so on and so forth. And these are the ones that we feel, I wish that we don't have such relatives. And not only that, sometimes it's not our own relatives. It could be the relative of a relative. Or those of you who are married, the relatives of your in-laws, and so on and so forth. Not everybody is the same as us. We wish, but they are not. Then we need to deal with our parents. There are times our parents are very supportive. There are times our parents are helpful. And there are times our parents are not. They don't understand. They have a different paradigm. They have a different mindset. They have a different way of dealing with things. And we wish we can all love them and be with them in the same way all the time. But they are not like that, right? And then we have siblings. Oh my goodness. Sometimes siblings can be a blessing. They are very good. But sometimes siblings can be siblings from, they say, we wish they are born from a different planet, or sometimes we in a very harsh situation, we say, I wish you are not, you belong to a different mother or a different father, things like that. Sometimes siblings can be people that we need to deal with, sometimes pleasantly, sometimes not so pleasant. Then we have our external people as well. As we go out to work, we need to deal with our superior. Some of us who are working, we have our boss to deal with. And managing boss is something I find it's a bit of a challenge for most people. We expect bosses to be very understanding, and we have read so much about what is a good leader, and we expect that this is the kind of leader I want to follow. And it's true, sometimes the bosses may not be good leaders. Our superior, they may be thinking that they are the top of the world, they can order people around, and many a times they can be very difficult to deal with. There are times it's not so much of that alone. It's not that he's a good. In fact, some bosses are good people. It's just that they're too nice, that they may not have a certain sense of direction. They are too nice. They want to please everybody, and therefore some bosses don't make decisions. So you find that they are very difficult to deal with, not because they are nasty people, but because they're just too nice. They can't handle a situation. They become, they can't make decisions, and so on and so forth. So you may find that you need to also deal with your boss. Let's see who else. Who are the other people that we need to deal with in our life? I'm sure you have in your mind now. Keep in mind, okay, who else is our stakeholder? Let's see. Well, okay, who is this? Let me see here. Customer. Our customers are also the ones, those of you who deal directly with customers, And you find that there are some customers who are very easy. In fact, they support you, and then sometimes they pay you with good money. But there are some customers who believes that they pay you the money, they expect you to do everything for them, and they are not so easy to deal with. And then they have their own idea what they need to do, what they need to, how they want to do things. And then sometimes some customers even micromanage the things you do, and so on and so forth. It's not an easy one sometimes. And then let's see who else we can think about. I'm sure you are starting to think about the various people right now in your life already. And then you have your staff, those of you who have your employees, the people under you, the people you need to deal with them. It's not that they are, it doesn't take a lot of them to give your life, difficulty. If you have, we say staff A, staff B, and staff C. Staff A is an A-class staff. I love him very much. I think she is a damn good staff. Staff B is okay. It's I think most of the time don't give me problem. I wish she can do more, but then I think it's okay generally. But then staff C, among all the staff I have, we say in Hokkien, we say C means C liao. Okay, they're just they're just terrible, and not only that, they don't do according to what they're told. Sometimes you expect something from them, but they delay you. They don't do according to instructions. Sometimes you expect them to know, but then they don't know, or they pretend they don't know, or things like that. It only takes that one staff of yours to make your life as a superior difficult. So you have to deal with them sometimes. It's not your choice. Those of you who are, in the working life, sometimes you don't have much of a choice. They say you inherited your staff. You don't really choose them, right? And especially when you're new in the organization, you find that you have to deal with such people from time to time. Then you have your friends. Some friends are good, some friends are not so good. In fact, I have an entire talk devoted to friendship. There are some, we call them the fake friends. And sometimes we have the good friends, but then not everybody is a good friend. Some friends are enemies in disguise. They look like your friend, but they're not your friend. And this is what the Buddha has mentioned in the Sigalowada Sutta. And then you have WhatsApp group members. I'm sure you have many WhatsApp groups, some of you. When you're in a WhatsApp group, sometimes the group members can be a pain. Not that you need to deal with them directly, but the fact that you are in the group makes it every day you see messages, and sometimes you wish, why do people say such things in the message? Why do people say those things? Is it really necessary to to mention those things, and so and so? And then what you do, you exit. But some of you don't exit, and then you're still there because you feel there should be some information coming in. But then there are some people who are just, you can't, you just wish, why are they like that? But the point is this: you don't really control them, In fact, all the things here you saw here in the circles here, the various parties you need to deal with them, you don't control them, and you can't really control when or how they come into your life. They are just there somehow. Could be because of karma, could be because of your past affinities, could be many reasons. And sometimes you don't, and sometimes he says, actually, I don't know, I'm trying to stay away from some people, but then they still come in. And then we find that we exit one and we go to another place. Sometimes we say, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm going to exit. I'm going to go to another place. And then you go to the other place of work and you find that, oh my goodness, it's even worse than before. Then you have your neighbors. And sometimes some neighbors can be quite hard to deal with. Neighbors who are inconsiderate, who don't really consider the neighborhood. In Malaysia, we have a phenomenon called parking. We park outside the house, and then we find that somehow or other they like to park there, and then we find that they are always parking that spot that we want to park, and then they are parking in front of the house, and many other reasons that just, and some neighbors, they don't have a qualms about, for example, not keeping their pets in the house, and then their rubbish they throw everywhere and things like that. So you have your neighbors to contend with. And on top of that, you think that you escape to the Buddhist society. We also got to deal with our Buddhist society members and people in various capacities. Sometimes we expect them to know how to, should be okay, ma. They're all same religion, we're all Buddhists. But then again, how come they're like that one? Some people, they are just so hard. They are just so difficult. So we find that there are various kinds of people that we deal with. There are good ones, there are pleasant ones, and there are also unpleasant ones. The point is this: when we have the pleasant ones, we feel it's okay. But then when we get one or two unpleasant encounters, we get very agitated, very worked up, and sometimes you find that it's very hard to reconcile. We may, in our anger and frustration and whatever not, say things or do things that that somehow is a detrimental to ourselves and to others. Of course, we say let's practice our our metta, let's be calm and all that, but easier said than done. In theory, it's right. We should maintain equanimity, but in practice, it's not so easy. So I want to explore this with every one of you here. How do we use the Buddha's teaching in a practical way to apply for our own well-being so that we can also deal with people in a different way? And I'm going back to basic, starting with ourselves. What can we do? Okay, so let's give some thoughts. Who are considered difficult people? Okay, you might want to comment if you have any comments to make. Who are considered difficult people? Why are they difficult? What makes them difficult? Right? So I'll just allow you to write something in the comment if you have. Who are they? Why are they difficult? Okay, what do they have in common? No need lah, but why are they difficult? What makes them difficult? What is considered a difficult? Yeah, you might want to make some comments so that later we can have a bit of discussion about those things. So give some thoughts. Yeah, reflect on them. Who are difficult? Why are they difficult? But nevertheless, when we encounter somebody who we considered difficult, why are they difficult? It could be that they don't do the things we want them to do. It could be, for example, sometimes they just make a lot of noise. They complain and make a lot of, and it could be sometimes people who somehow feel that they are the top of the world, they are better than others, and they create all kind of problem because they believe they are right all the time and they just don't want to take any kind of feedback and so on and so forth. Whatever it is, there could be many types of people who we consider as difficult. And the point I'm trying to make is this: our normal response can be multiple. Some of us can respond like this. Okay, we just get very worked up, very hyped up, and it just sometimes when you deal with somebody very difficult, the heart also beat faster. Okay, some of us feel hotter, some of us feel tighter. Whatever it is, there's a physical response usually. Some of us could be responding like this: whatever you say lah, never mind, whatever you say lah, So when you say whatever you say, it's not that I agree with you, it's just that I don't care anymore. All right. So there could be a normal response when we have somebody very difficult that we have to deal with. We feel like killing them sometimes, hitting them, punching them. And it's true, some people who are really frustrated, angry, and whatever not, you just feel that you want to eliminate them from your life. And there are times we just zone out and we just don't know what they're talking about anymore. And it's just like, frozen, and just sometimes our response is, I just wish you're not there. I just wish, and then we just get lost in our own thoughts, And there are times we just fight. We lash out. We are so worked up that we just lash out at people. And that's the worst, of course, that can happen. Sometimes it's not really lashing out in the open. It could be the WhatsApp message you send. You put a tone of sarcasm there, or you say something that you're not really mean to say, and things like that. In fact, these are normal responses whenever we sometimes deal with somebody that we may not like so much, or we may feel that they are they are somehow triggering our emotions and so on and so forth. But I want to say this to you, all of you need to take note. The reality of life, let's go back to what the Buddha has said. The Buddha said that life is dukkha. What is dukkha? the noble truth of dukkha. Some of them we are born with. For example, birth is dukkha. Old age is dukkha. Death is dukkha. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair are all dukkha. These are reality of how our life is. You're reborn, you grow old, you die, and then the whole thing start again, you're reborn again, and so on and so forth. But the Buddha also mentioned dukkha comes in different form. Association with the unbeloved. In other words, being with people we dislike is dukkha. Separation from the people we like is dukkha. Not getting what is wanted is dukkha. So I just want to zoom into here. Association with somebody we dislike. When we don't like someone, it's dukkha. And that is reality. Apparently, what the Buddha is trying to say to us is people are difficult because of the nature of the things in life. It's not that people choose to be difficult. The difficulty comes because it's nature. Dukkha is natural. That's how things are. When we are associated with somebody that we don't like, that's dukkha. Sometimes we don't have that choice, but that happens. And that is a reality that I think we need to come to terms with. By understanding this, we know that it is not within our control. I think we need to recognize this very important reality. We don't choose, we don't control the kind of people that are difficult in our life. We have no control. And they also, actually, the person on the other end, technically speaking, has no control. We come together because of karma. Okay? And it's natural. Just acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with him and there's nothing wrong with me. It's just the way things are, and it's just the way things work out. So we have to be very clear about this point when we reflect on life. Therefore, however, we can choose how we respond. According to the Salla Sutta, there is a simile of the two arrows. Of course, the two arrows means, of course, I won't tell the story in full, but the story goes that if the arrow is being shot at you, all right, you experience two pains, according to the Buddha. If the arrow is shot, you experience a physical pain, but you also experience a mental pain. Okay, so in this, so there's two kinds of pain. The arrow is shot once, it hit us once, but we experience two times the pain, physical and mental. The first one is a physical pain. It's painful. All right, we can't help feeling the pain physically, but we also feel the mental pain. I don't like this. This shouldn't have happened. This is this is it shouldn't happen to me. Why it has to be me? These are called mental pain. So we must understand the physical pain we can't avoid, the mental pain we can choose. Okay, so the Buddha does says, in the same way, when we deal with somebody who we consider so-called difficult, not necessarily whatever they do to us, they say to us, they harm us in any way, there's always two kinds of pain. One is it hits us, maybe not physically, but if you look at it metaphorically, our body gets into a certain situation. But the second pain is a lot more mental and emotional, because when somebody is not responding the way we want, we will have all kind of responses in our mind, in our brain, in our energy, in our emotions. I don't like this. I hate this. I hate you, and so on and so forth. So how we respond is a choice that we can make somehow. And according to Stephen Covey, who adapted this from, what's the guy's name? Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Yeah, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and power to choose our response. In those choices lie our growth and our happiness. In other words, when we have somebody that is so-called difficult in our mind, they deal with us and we deal with them. They will continue to have a stimulus to us, trigger us, say things to us, do things to us, but there is a space, and in that space is how we choose to respond. And I think this is exactly what the Buddha is trying to say to us all the while. The choice is ours, how we respond. We can't choose the circumstances. Sometimes we can't control what is happening. We can't control what somebody else does or says or thinks. We can only have a little bit of control over how we respond. And that is a choice we make. Of course, this looks like cliche, but then it's true. Yeah, it's true. How we respond is our choice. How people respond, how people do to us, that's their, So, in light of that, then the next question is how? How do we deal with resentment, annoyance that we have towards somebody who is very difficult to us? See, the danger is that when we don't know how to deal with such people, what we will end up doing is we will react to them. He will accuse me. I defend myself. I say, no, it's not me. And then I get very annoyed. And then after that, I go back and then I go and complain about it. And after that, so we may not be very wise in the way we deal with them. Somebody, let's say in a car accident, crash, and into our vehicle. And if we do not know how to deal with such a situation, we will either panic, or we will be very angry, or we get very annoyed and we get very resentful, and then we end up, having to deal, saying those things and doing those things that may not be very good. In fact, we may even harm the other person. But at the same time, when we are passive, also is no good. When somebody's berating us, scolding us, telling us off, and even doing all kind of thing to make our life a misery, and then we are just passively saying what to do, like that law, I cannot bully, what to do, that's also not very wise. So, but the point I'm trying to make is, when we deal with somebody who is difficult, definitely we will have resentment in the heart, annoyance, irritation, frustration, agitation. All these emotions will arise. And the problem is when we start to not being aware of those agitation, annoyance, frustration, all these emotions that come up. Mind you, the brain doesn't always do the things we want to do. We want to speak metta and kind and compassionate, but when the resentment arises, when the emotions come up, all the thing about metta, all suddenly it just disappears and it just thrown out the window, and we all come out with anger and frustration and whatever. It just comes out, and that's a danger here. We need to know how to deal with them. So let's explore this particular sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of 5, where the Buddha speaks about the various kinds of situations. When a person is difficult to us, we need to go down and understand and analyze what. That's why the first question is, why are they difficult? That question needs to be asked. Because if we can answer that question, why are they difficult, then we know what we need to do. But if we don't know why are they difficult, we will label them as difficult. We will label them as terrible. We will label them as irritating, whatever it is. And it says, I don't like that. I don't like you. I hate him. Whatever it is. We just judge the entire person. But what if we can ask the question, why are they difficult? And the Buddha has given this very useful sutta with some images. The Buddha used a lot of simile here in this sutta to paint you some images. So I want to take you to a different aspect. Let's not look at Dhamma in a very dry way. Let's look at it from a very visual way. And I invite you to imagine and to visualize something. Okay, first one. Example 1. This is a situation where the person that we deal with, his bodily behavior is impure, but his speech is pure. What does it mean by that? Some people, in terms of their actions, they may not be very skillful. For example, some people by nature or by habit, they like to steal. Okay, they maybe have a lot of bad habits. Some people, they get into this, they take a lot of alcohol and drink, and then they get drunk and things like that. Yeah. Or their actions may not be very helpful. Sometimes they want to help, but then they end up being not helpful. It could be like that. Their actions, bodily behavior is considered actions, and you find that due to their actions, you just very resentful. You just, why like that lah, But their speech is pure, meaning a lot of time this person always tells the truth. This person always says things at the right time. He never use harsh speech. He never gossips. He never slander. He never say things that are not right. He always says things that are right, that are proper, that are good. It's just that his actions could not be like this. I was just, the other day we were having a discussion, and I think it was Dd Khoo Nee Wern who related an incident about my friend Seng Quat, who related not incident, but he knows somebody who is who has a lot of bad habits. He likes to drink, he womanizes, and all that. But his speech is pure. Now, why? You see, when you can distinguish between the two, you know that you are not looking. The person is a difficult person. You may not want to deal with him so much. You may want to avoid them, but the speech is pure, which means this person, according to the example, says things that are right, that are proper, that are good, and sometimes can even inspire. But it's just that he's got some very bad habits, and his actions may not be the best kind of actions, So in light of that, do we say the entire person is difficult? When we deal with them, do you look at the entire person? If you look at the entire person, you will say, this one I don't like. But assuming you have to deal with such people, then the Buddha says this, and he says, this is a simile he used. Suppose a mendicant wearing rag robes sees a rag by the side of the road. Rag is like, the rag, the broken cloth or the dirty cloth. And the rag here, what he does is they hold it down with the left foot, spread it out with the right foot, and tear out what was intact. In other words, most of the rag cannot be used. But what if I just tear out the one that is useful and I take it away with them? Or I take it away with me, assuming you only want to take the one that is good and ignore the rest of them. In the same way, you should ignore that person's impure behavior by way of body. In other words, ignore his actions, his bodily actions, his ways of doing things. Focus on their pure behavior in terms of speech. Very interesting, because this is what the Buddha says. Don't look at the whole person as a difficult person. Look at the person's behavior. Very interesting. The Buddha never says you should just deal with the entire person. The person has behaviors. Why are they difficult? This one, the example is his difficulty comes, the difficulty dealing with it is because his actions are not so good, but the way his speech is so right. So you have a choice. Either I want to deal with him or not. And assuming you still need to deal with him, it could be your boss, it could be a colleague. You may not want to spend so much time with him or her, but you know that you just want to deal with the part that is good. So you ignore the person's actions and you focus on their speech and just deal with the part that is okay. Just like the simile here, hold down two sides of the cloth, tear out the one that is useful, forget about the rest. Very interesting, isn't it? Instead of getting resentful to the person, what if we can deal with the person skillfully by ignoring the part that is not so good and focusing on the part that is good, knowing that we can't change who he is, we can change how she behaves. We can't change her. Sometimes no choice one. Yeah, but we can deal with only the behavior. All right. So this is the first example. Okay. So very interesting simile here. Take the rag, put it down, hold it down, tear out the one And that's what we should focus on. And this one we can do. Just focus on the person's speech that is okay. And we can deal with that. All right. Okay. Let's move on to the second example. The second example is the opposite. The person's speech is not pure, but his actions are pure. Some people's speech is questionable. Either they lie or they have a lot of harsh words. Sometimes they don't lie, but they have a lot of harsh words. They use a lot of, they're very harsh. They use sarcasm. They use, they like to berate. They like to talk down to people. And actually, these kind of people is very hard to deal with. And let me tell you, sometimes I just avoid them entirely. Yeah. But according to this example, could be that their actions are pure. Some people, by their day-to-day way of doing things, they don't have any bad intention one. Their bodily behavior, their actions are okay. They will somehow get things done for you. They keep to their precepts, except the speech is no good. So they don't kill, they don't steal, they don't conduct sexual misconduct. They don't even take intoxicating drinks. And maybe the way they do their things, they are very helpful sometimes. But when they say dia punya mulut bila buka, that's it. It's best they don't speak, because when the time they speak, ayo, my goodness, then we says, these kind of people, why do you have to deal with them? They are just a pain, But you look at it, only the speech is not pure. So now this is very interesting, the simile. Suppose there was a lotus pond covered with moss and aquatic plants. Then along comes a person struggling in the oppressive heat, weary, thirsty, and parched. Imagine this. Then they plunge into the lotus pond, sweep away the moss, the plant, the dirt, and then they cup their hands and drink from it and be on their way. In other words, they only take the water that is pure, forget about the rest. The whole pond can be very, covered with so many impurities. But I cup my hands and I take only the part that is pure and take it with me, and then that's it. All right? The rest, I forget about them. Now, in the same way, you should ignore the person's impure behavior by way of speech. Ignore what he says and focus on the fact that his actions are okay. Very interesting, isn't it? So the first simile is about the opposite. His body behavior is not pure, though his actions are not good, but then his speech is all right. So you should, like the rag, hold down both sides, tear out, and then only deal with that part. This one is quite similar. His speech is not pure, but the body and his actions are pure. You just look at the entire lotus pond. Everything else is very muddy, very murky. I only want that pure part. I cup my hands, I take it, I drink, and that's it. I deal only with that part. So on these two examples, they're quite similar in the sense that you only take the one that is still all right. You take the one that can be used. You take the one that you can is agreeable to you, and you deal only with the part that is agreeable to you. Okay, so some people are like that. They are okay one. The actions are okay, but somehow the mulut, the speech, bila dia cakap, either they, but of course sometimes they can lie, they can whatever it is, and sometimes they could be serial liars or whatever, and sometimes we have to deal with that. But we sometimes know that actually it's just there. So the lesson here is the behavior. When you deal with somebody, you don't deal with the whole person. The Buddha's example here is you deal with the behavior. All right, it's very different from saying you are a difficult person as compared to saying your behavior is not agreeable to me. It's a very different way of looking at it. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Okay, so we can see these two. One is like that, the other one is like that. But in other words, ada 50% lah, 50% is okay, 50% not so good, and then we are just trying to deal with them. All right. So the simile gives an example here. Now the third one is even more challenging. The third one is very challenging to deal with. What if the person's bodily behavior and speech are also impure? In other words, their action is no good, their speech is no good. You can't see anything good about them, one. Okay? Somehow or other, some people you deal with them, you can't. You just try to imagine he breaks the precepts, he tells lies, their actions are not helpful, they can be harsh and whatever not. Somehow you can't see anything good about them. Yeah. But occasionally gets an openness and clarity of heart from time to time. How you know that the person could be open, and that means that actually maybe the person has certain habits. His speech is no good, his behavior no good, he doesn't keep the precepts so well. But then that from time to time when you tell him something, you say something to them, they will just toe the line. They will say, okay, I think it's all right. And for a while, they'll be okay with you. Then they go back to old habits. Have you ever seen people like that? You can't see anything good in them, but then occasionally you can tell that from time to time, this one actually okay one. It's just that you can't agree with many things they do. But from time to time, when you give feedback, when you tell them, they will accept. They will not be like totally reject you entirely. Okay, but this is more challenging than the first two. Okay, but that they have some ounce of clarity and goodness in their heart. Yeah, even though their actions are no good and their speech is also no good. So what did the Buddha say here? This is also very interesting. Suppose there was a little water in a cow's hoof print. Imagine this. This is Indian example. Okay, okay. Cow's hoof print. I mean, when the cow those days, of course, cows are the ones that pulls the vehicle, right? And the cow's hoof print will have an impression on the muddy ground, and there was a little bit of water in the hoof print. Then along comes somebody struggling in the oppressive heat, weary, thirsty, and parched. Very, very thirsty already. Then they might think, this little bit of water is in a cow's hoof print. If I drink it with my cup hands, I'll stir it and disturb it, making it undrinkable. Yeah. So imagine this. If you see some water there, I'm very thirsty, and I just want to take the water and drink. But I know if I were to use my hands, I were to cup it, I would disturb it, I would stir it, and therefore it will not be drinkable. It doesn't meet my objective. So what do I do? Then the Buddha says, why don't I get down on all fours and drink it up like a cow? Now, this one looks like a very funny example, but imagine this. You're not disturbing the water there in the small little puddle there. You just drink up from the surface that is not so muddy one. In other words, this is very interesting. When somebody is like this, very hard to deal with, his actions are no good, his speech is no good, but from time to time, he does make some good decision, or maybe from time to time, he's okay. As long as you don't trigger him or her, you can still deal with the person because he is okay in terms of his heart and clarity. Occasionally, you find he's okay. Yeah, there was an example given by somebody the other day that says, I have a boss who is like that one, very foul mouth, very hard to deal with. Everything he does and his actions are also very bad. He never, in fact, he's always treating people in a very lousy way. But actually, he can get things done. He can get things going. He can still make things happen. And he's my boss. I need him to approve my thing. I need him to endorse my thing. I need him to endorse this thing before I proceed to the next level. So what I do, I don't get close so close to him. But from time to time, if I see he's in a good mood, I know how to catch him. I know how to say the right thing, and I know how to get something from him, and then I go off, and I don't need to deal with him. So in other words, I don't have resentment towards him, but I only deal with the behavior that I feel I can deal with. Just like this example. Why I want to? So similarly here, if I were to disturb it, by cupping my hands, I'll be disturbing the situation. If I go and try to tell him off, or even try to give him advice, or even say things like, telling what I think should be done and things like that, I'll be disturbing the water. What if I don't disturb the water at all? What if I only take the one that I want to get the objective and then move on? So get down on all fours and drink it up like a cow. Today's example, maybe don't need to do that. Take a water, take a filter, use a straw, whatever it is. The whole idea behind this example is you don't disturb the water. The earlier example, remember the lotus pond one? You just cup your hands and take the water. That's not so bad. It's quite easy. The first example, tear out the one, is easier. The first two examples are easier. They have only one aspect of behavior that is not good, either the action or the speech. But here, if you can't see the action or the speech good, but they are okay as a person, they don't have any, they're not evil, they're not too bad. From time to time, they do okay, they are quite all right, then don't disturb the status quo. You can't change who they are, but you don't disturb it. You only take the one that you feel you want to deal with. Okay, so in the same way, ignore that person's impure behavior by action and speech. Focus on the fact that from time to time, he is okay. Then I can deal with him. Yeah. So now next example is even more difficult than this one. Next example is, what if the person's action also no good, speech also no good, and you cannot see even they can have any kind of goodness or clarity, or you tell them feedback also, they won't take it one, and you just cannot see anything that you can deal with at all. This one very jialat. We say, what can we do with such people in our life if we have to deal with them? Okay, can you imagine? This is somebody that's so difficult already. How do we still not be resentful for the person? This kind of people very hard one. We normally get very resentful, very agitated, worked up, frustrated, irritated with such a person. Okay, so let's see what the Buddha has to say. Suppose a person was traveling along a road and they were sick, suffering gravely ill. It was a long way to a village, whether ahead or behind. They don't have suitable food or medicine or a competent carer or someone to bring them to the neighborhood of a village. Okay, suppose you see somebody like this who is very, very suffering already. And then another person traveling along the road sees them, thinks of them with nothing but compassion, kindness, and sympathy. Oh, may this person get suitable food or medicine, or a competent carer, or someone to bring them to the village. Why is that? So they don't come to ruin here. So in other words, you see somebody like this, it's like the simile is like somebody whose behavior is so bad, his action no good, speech no good, doesn't have clarity of heart, doesn't even take any feedback, every time very defensive, every time never make any change one. Then you can see them as if they are a sick person, suffering person, ill person. You can't do anything about them. You can only wish them, may you find your way to somewhere that is okay. You can't help them. You can't change them. You can only have compassion, kindness, and even pity and sympathy for them. May you be well and happy. That's all you can do. I don't want to deal with you, but I'm going to look at you and say, you are suffering. You are ill. You are not having a good time. Your mind is always agitated. You are not, you are pitiful. So it's to arouse compassion in us for such people when they are really impossible. It's easy to hate them. But here, the simile here is just to tell us, can we have compassion for such people? You don't have to deal with them so much, but you can have compassion for them. So in the same way, ignore the person's impure behavior by action, by body, by speech, and the fact that they can't even have any openness and clarity, they are just impossible. Then think of them with nothing but compassion, kindness, and sympathy. Oh, may you give up your bad conduct. May you give up your not so your unskillful ways. May you develop good conduct. I it's for us not to be resentful, because when we are resentful, it is easy to fall into the trap of saying the thing that are not right. Because some people like this, especially in certain places, they office or otherwise, they will throw a spanner in the works, and they are not aware of themselves. They think they are doing the right thing, but it's wrong. And then if you are resentful and if you're easily frustrated, agitated, irritated, you will accidentally say something that is hitting back against him or her, and then you find that you get into trouble. Why do you want to do that? So what if we have another way to remove resentment from our mind by saying, may you be giving up your, because I don't want you to be reborn in a place where it is terrible. I would like you to have good life, rebirth, and all that. So you just look at it with compassion. That's example 4. This is in the worst case scenario already. All right. Remember, the first case is you can ignore one aspect. It could be the action or the speech, and we just like the simile of the cloth, we just take only the one that is okay. The second example is the other half. Maybe the speech is good, the action no good. Then you cup your hands, you only drink the water, ignore the rest in the pond. The third example is harder. He's got so many things I cannot see good, but from time to time, it's okay. Then I just don't disturb it. Don't even cut my hand. Don't disturb the thing. Don't disturb the status quo, and only take the one that I think I can deal with. Example 4 is even worse than this. It's very tough. It's almost impossible. This is where you need to just say, okay, I'm not going to deal with you. I've done my best for you. I've done what I can for you. I just hope and wish you all the best. I just want you to not have any bad karma. Okay, that's all I can say. Okay, so this is the example 4. Now, the 5th example is somebody like this. His actions are pure, speech is pure, and his openness and clarity of heart is pure. This kind of person is the best person you can deal with already. In fact, to deal with such people is a blessing, because it's easy. Okay, it's easy to deal with them. They're not difficult. So the simile here given is that, suppose there was a lotus pond with clear, sweet, cool water, clean with smooth banks, delightful, shaded by many trees. Then along comes a person struggling in the oppressive heat, weary, thirsty, and parched. Plunge into the lotus pond to bathe, to drink, and after coming out from the water, sit or lie down right there in the shade of the trees. Wow, imagine this. Sweet, cool water. I'm thirsty. I just jump in. I don't even have to bother. I bathe, I drink, and after that, I rest. And I just enjoy. Now, that is how you deal with somebody who is like this. In the same way, focus on his behavior that is good by action, by speech, and openness of heart from time to time. Relying on a person who is impressive all around, the mind becomes confident. Very interesting. This is the best kind of people. That's how you deal with them. Okay? So, what I'm trying to tell you is the lesson here is very important. We need to focus on the person's behavior, not the entire person. Sometimes we judge people. He's no good. He's like that. He's not like that, and that's called judging. But what if we have an option not to judge, but to focus on the person's verbal, action, and his mental behaviors? Okay? And all right. So another example here is the Buddha's own example in the Akosa Sutta, where the Buddha had to deal with this person called Bharadvaja. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, squirrels feeding ground. The Brahmin Bharadvaja, the root, heard a rumor that a Brahmin of the Bharadvaja clan had gone forth from the lay life to a homelessness in the presence of ascetic Gautama. This is somebody who's very jealous. And after being jealous because some of his clan people joined the Buddha, he was very angry. and jealousy leads to anger, he went to confront the Buddha and abused and insulted him with rude, harsh words. Tell this Buddha, says, why are you going to do this kind of thing? You shouldn't be doing this. You're a fraud. You are a liar. You are a whatever lah. You are new, and how can you think you are nobody, and whatever it is lah. And when he had spoken, of course, he was very, very harsh with him, and very, very. Sometimes when we hear harsh words like this from people, we just get very worked up. How can he say that about me? How can we say those things about me? But the Buddha said to him, what do you think, Brahmin? Do friends, colleagues, relatives, and family members and guests still come visit you? And sometimes they do. Yeah, the Brahmin said, okay. Do you then serve them a variety of food and savories? Sometimes I do. But if they don't accept it, Brahmin, who does it belong to? In that case, it still belongs to me. In the same way, Brahmin, when you abuse, harass, attack us, we who do not abuse, harass, attack, we don't accept it. It still belongs to you. It still belongs to you. Whatever you have said to me, I do not accept, just as you have given the gifts to me, they all belong to you. I don't accept any of it. So when someone who, when abused, harassed, attacked, abuses, and attacks in return, is said to have eaten the food and have a reaction to it. But we neither eat your food, nor do we have a reaction to it. It belongs to you. This is the Buddha's own example of how he dealt with somebody who is abusive, who was difficult. And I think in his life, he also had to deal with not just this example, but many other Brahmins and even his own people, and even his own disciple, Devadatta, was somebody who was very difficult to deal with. And the Buddha has never had a resentment towards him. In fact, he only dealt with the person's behavior. So, in the Kachupama Sutta, it says that when others address you, it could be untrue, gentle, or harsh, or harmful, whatever it is, our minds will remain unaffected and abide with compassion for their welfare. So it is our choice how we want to mentally or emotionally react to the person. Yeah. And finally, loving kindness can be maintained towards a person with whom you are annoyed or resentful. You can remove your annoyance, your resentment by having metta. You can remove annoyance or resentment by having compassion, karuna. You can remove annoyance or resentment by having equanimity. You look at things more balanced way. You're not looking at it from one side or the other side. You always see there are two sides of the coin. Whatever he has done, there's always two sides of it. It's not 100% good, not 100% bad. Can I look at it from that angle? But number 4 here is, one of the ways you want to remove annoyance is just don't deal with them. Ignore them if you have a choice. Sometimes we have a choice to ignore them. Sometimes we have a choice not to deal with them, not to handle them. Why not? Yeah, remove it. And we can just reflect. Ownership of deeds in a person can be concentrated. This good person is owner of your own deeds, heir to his own deeds. The deeds are the womb which you are born. Therefore, I shouldn't be so resentful, because if I'm resentful, I'm partaking in the karma. What if I don't partake in that? What if I have compassion towards him and hopefully that he will be all right? That's how I remove annoyance and resentment. So when we deal with many kinds of people, we know that we can choose how we respond. We can either ignore the negative qualities, focus on the positive qualities, or if we can't find anything good about the person, just have compassion for the person and says, I have done all I can for you. I've done what I need to do. I think, it's, in other words, I'm still treating you as another human being. Okay, so in all the example the Buddha has said, when we deal with such people, we all just have to learn to accept that they are all human beings. But we need to be wise to make a choice that we do not get into a unwise situation where we react, respond unwisely, because we will get ourselves into trouble. We will escalate the situation further. And instead of handling a situation, we are making the situation worse. What if we have another way to deal with it? So I've given those similes. I hope they make sense to you. If you don't like the similes, just focus on the content, ignore the behavior, focus on the good side, and only deal with that part. But if you like the similes, that is very true. The first one is easier. First two are easier. Tear out the one, deal with the one. Cup your hands on the pond, ignore the rest. The third one is very difficult. Don't disturb it. Carefully treat the person like a fragile item there. Okay, we say deal with it with a lot of care or tender loving care. Very careful. When you deal with a person, be very, very careful. They are fragile. Yeah. Third example. The fourth example is I just cannot deal with him. But I'm gonna just leave him alone, and so on. So of course the best is somebody who is not so difficult. We just have to immerse ourselves with the person. Right. So that's my sharing. I don't know whether it makes sense, but I would like you to take home this and give some reflections. We can't sometimes choose the people we encounter. It could be a work colleague, it could be a customer, it could be a relative, it could be sometimes our own close ones, and whatever it is, we do have multiple kinds of people we deal with. The challenge is, do we deal with an entire person, which we can find very resentful towards, or we only deal with the person's behavior and look at them as a human being with unwise or unskillful or unmindful behaviors? What can we do? The Buddha has given some examples here. Very profound message here for us. All right, so I'm going to stop this right now and maybe take some questions if we have. And that's it.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo Buddhaya and good morning, brothers and sisters. And great morning to you, Dd Nee Wern. Sadhu to you for a very interesting, very inspiring, and a mentally stimulating talk on how to deal with difficult people in our life, especially with those people that come into our life not by our choice. We got no choice. And who also can make our life very miserable, very difficult, unpleasant, and sometimes can be very traumatic. And it's amazing that you give us so many good examples on how to handle, how to respond in such a situation to make our life a happier one.
I was very intrigued by the Buddha's examples here. The similes are so spot on. And I think the Buddha is very, very spot on when he says, when you deal with such people, what do you do?
I have come across the sutta before, but you make it very, very what you call relevant in our daily life. Okay, I think now we come to this Q&A sessions. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, do you have any question for Brother Nee Wern? If you have any questions, you can key into the comment box. Is there any question? The first question comes from KCBA, WH Chan. Does the character of a person, usually which is hard to change, stubborn, difficult, inherited from his past karma and upbringing, and will carry on in next life again, unless they cultivated the change in this life?
Actually, I don't know. I wouldn't know how the last life would, whether it's inherited past karma, whether he will carry it on in the next life. But I do agree that unless you cultivate a way to change your habits, most habits will continue. I think unless we consciously change our habits, it's very hard. I mean, even though you can give all your feedback to the person and tell the person what to do and give them a lecture and give them a training and even advise them, and then he says, okay, you promise don't do it anymore, I can bet with you, unless they consciously make an effort to change habits, they will repeat those behaviors. So I would say behaviors are repeated. So it's not too far-fetched to say that behaviors can be repeated in a future life, maybe in a different form. I think when we look at people like this, it's kind of pitiful that they do not have that kind of, they don't make that choice to make a change in their life, and it's quite sad. But well, I can't live their life for them. They have to choose what kind of life they live. At the most, we can say one or two good words to them, and hopefully they take what our advice.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Even though somebody or anyone or all of us may have certain tendency because of our past life, because of our karma inherited from our past life, in this very life itself, we still can change.
Yeah,
we still
yeah,
can change.
Conscious effort, it's not easy to change habits.
Yeah, like the story of this Liu Fang.
Yeah,
we can actually change our destiny by changing, what we do in this very life itself. Yeah, I think we have the second question.
Sure.
Dd Khoo Nee Wern, for those people in our life, not by choice, example, one's parents or siblings or children whose behavior and or speech are impure, should we just learn how to deal with them, or should we try to correct them?
This is a tough one. I can only speak from my own experience. I don't know, Dd Chi, maybe you have some other experience. I suppose when it comes to your own parents, let's look at it one by one. Parents are people that you're close to, and I think it depends. Some parents you are close to, some parents you're not close to. Some people say I'm close to my mom, but I'm not close to my dad. Or I'm close to my dad, I'm not close to my mom. Or maybe I'm not close to my parents. Or maybe I'm close to them, but then they have their own way of thinking and things like that. So can I change them? I think it's hard when it comes to your own parents, unless you have a very good relationship and upbringing where they allow you to have a little bit of dialogue with them. Most Asian parents are a little bit hard for them to change their ways. At the most, when it comes to parents, we can only show our good example and maybe from time to time give them one or two tips based on what we read and things like that. That's just from me. Siblings, I think, is also a little bit hard, especially if they are not, if they have their own life, for example. If they are not that close, or if they are close, there may be a good chance that we can maybe try to change them, maybe try to help them, maybe try to give them advice that provided our relationship with them is a good one. Children, we don't have a choice. I suppose it's our duty to help them to have better behaviors in their life, no matter what it is. When they are still young, especially, we need to correct them. When they reach a certain age, we can't do that much anymore. So I would say you have to make a judgment here as to whether you have the relationship that is helpful, that you can make, you can influence them. If you feel that you can influence them, if you can't influence them, then you just have to deal with them. Then Dan Lok, one of the people influencers and in the management world, saying the thing about relatives is you can love them from a distance. You keep a distance, but you still love them. It's just that you don't want to deal with them on a very frequent basis. But if you live with your parents, if you live with your siblings, if you live with your spouse, sometimes it's a little bit harder. You can only choose to maybe minimize your contact, and then you still deal with them. But can you change them? Can you help them to change their ways? I think if you have a chance to do so, you can try. But after trying a few rounds, if you feel that that's all you can do, it's a choice whether you want to continue trying, whether you got stamina to do so. But they are your loved ones. I know we care for them, and sometimes loved ones and people close to us are the most difficult because we have so much more expectations on them.
Yeah, I really like what you say, Dd Khoo Nee Wern, just now. For your parents or other loved ones, if you really have love for them, you really show that you care for them, you show that you love them, you can actually influence them. I mean, if you think they are not so right, you can actually by doing so can actually influence them to what you actually would prefer them to be. I mean, you got a very good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sometimes some parents are a bit hard. I understand that. It takes a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's right. We go for the third question.
Yep.
One more question. Well, if one has a very difficult boss, but he needs a job, he got no choice to pay for the house, his children education, his parents medical bills nowadays very expensive. What should we do?
Yeah, bosses. Oh my goodness. I think it depends on what you define as difficult, when we deal with bosses, and in my corporate, involvement with many people who are having bosses to deal with, you need to understand. Go back to the Buddha's example there. Which aspect of the boss is difficult? I think we need to be very clear. Which behavior is he not so good in? It could be that he could be a very indecisive person. Okay, it could be sometimes they are decisive, but they make all the wrong choices, and or they could be very terrorizing. They're very we call them corporate terrorists. Sometimes they're very terrorizing. They make life very living hell for you, and you have to deal with such a boss. You need to ask yourself a very important question: can you still deal with such a situation, and how does it affect my life? If I can still manage the difficulty of the dealing with that boss, in a sense that I know how to deal with his whatever it is. I mean, I have one boss last time, in my corporate days, where morning he comes in, he will just scold people, and he's a foul-mouthed person. He comes in the morning, and first thing before he reaches his desk, he already insulted a few ladies in the thing, and then as he walks in through, he sees another person, he will somehow either remind you of something or tell you something, and most of the time he will add on a very personal comment. You are, he was add on a very personal, very degrading comment, and then by the time he reaches his office, his room there, his door is open, but everything that comes out is So I had a very difficult person who we deal with, but I mean, the rest of the people who are with me in the office, they will every day complain lah. Like that lah, So I says, well, your life is very miserable here, right? So I was telling myself, I don't want my life to be miserable. What I can recognize is that his actions are not good, his speech is no good. Remember the example? But actually, he is just another person who has a problem at home, because he always got problem with the wife one. Maybe it's him lah. I know he could be the problem, but then never mind. And every day he will come to office in a very bad mood because he has an argument with the wife, whatever. And I recognize that actually, if I can just deliver what he wants, he will keep quiet. So I was very clear that my objective is to get what I want. I want my thing to be approved. I want my thing to go on. So he is like the third example. I only deal with only the part that is just like the muddy water, in a cow's hoof print. I just drink up the one that is good, and then the rest of it I leave him. I don't even deal. So that is just bosses lah. But if we feel that, when you can deal with such a situation, it's just a matter of managing your situation in office. But I would say, if you really cannot tahan anymore, how you know you cannot tahan? You take more MC, more EL. You somehow have a very bad, time at home also. Then I think it's about time you make a choice, do I still want to work here? Sometimes it could be like that. So there are many options to choose from. I don't know the context here, how difficult. So the big question to ask is, which part is difficult? Can I still deal with that part? Go back to the same lesson there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you say also reminded me of my personal experience last time. I have been working in a company which I enjoy so much for, I think, about 5 to 6 years. Then came in a new boss, so difficult to handle. So what do you call? He can scold you for 4 hours non-stop. With a cigarette, holding a cigarette also non-stop, smoking non-stop, not taking a drop of water. I mean, such people are very rare in the world. But of course, for me, I got a choice. The pasture outside is still green, so no problem.
Actually, so, we sometimes, true. The leadership, you say it right. Sometimes people feel trapped because they feel it's a feeling. It's not true. It's just a feeling. I got no choice.
Yeah,
it's a feeling. So when you feel that way, it's almost like we feel almost helpless, and we are sucked into the situation. This is where the Buddha's teaching about about understanding life is very important. Anicca, dukkha, and anatta. This is not me, not mine, not myself. This is impermanent. And I think you have applied that well by saying, I have a choice. Do I have to put up with this nonsense? If there's a greener pasture, why can't I go and find my way? And the myth is I got no choice.
That's right.
We all have a choice.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dd Nee Wern. Once again, thank you so much for your very interesting and very inspiring and a very stimulating talk this morning. Give us so many good examples on how to handle or how to deal with all those difficult people, so that we can have a happier life, instead of being living a miserable life because of those people. In fact, there are many good feedback from our listeners. There's one from this Chia Yi Lin, who say, focus only on the positive points, bodily behavior or speech. Buang yang keruh, ambil yang jernih. So there are a lot of wisdom.
Lovely. Good.
Yeah,
Very
a lot of
bahasa.
Yeah. And there are many more actually, many more. Yeah, I can see here. So thank you so much to our members, devotees as well, for their very interesting feedback and also the great appreciation for your talk this morning. I think it's time for us to. I think you take one last question. I just saw one last one
Sure.
that came in. Okay, we take this last question.
Can.
Brother Alfred, we take this last question. Oh, sorry, I think it's just a comment. People with high ego who just doesn't want to agree or accept other views are difficult people. I think just a comment, sorry. Okay. Once again, thank you so much, Dd Nee Wern, and sadhu to you. Sadhu. Have a good week ahead.
Thank you, Dd Jim. Thank you very much. Thank you, SJP.
Dhamma, please help me to say thank you to the speaker, Dd Khoo Nee Wern. I'm also very happy with the participation from the viewers, from our the Dhamma brothers and sisters who have complimented us, especially to our speaker, and join in viewing, in expressing their opinions. Wonderful, wonderful crowd this morning. And what is our takeaway this morning? As I told you before the Dhamma sharing by Dd Nee Wern, we can choose how we can respond. We have our option to remove resentment by ignoring negative qualities of the person. Focus positive qualities of the person. Look at the person with eyes of compassion. Finally, very important is learn from the Buddha's life example. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Gratitude to the speaker again, and who has spent his time to prepare and deliver his Dhamma sharing. Gratitude to those who have listened and learned and cultivate what they have learned. Gratitude to our Dhamma friends from the north to the south, and from many devotees from the Klang and Coat who are listening and participating in every week Sunday's Buddha Puja, Dharma sharing, and sharing of marriages. Gratitude to the societies who are encouraging the devotees in spending their time every Sunday morning. With the merits accrued, let us dedicate merits to our departed relatives, families, and friends, and all beings. May they rejoice to the merits. We should dedicate merits who are not well. May they have a speedy recovery. May they be free from harm and danger. Sharing of merits, punna, no more dana. Imang no punya bhagam mata pitunancha acharyanancha sabba saktanancha sabba mitanancha sabba nyatinancha sabba petanancha sabba devatanancha bhajema Imang no punya bhagang sabba satanang dema sabbe sata sukita hontu Idang me dinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo Idang me dinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo Idang me dinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo Aspiration Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya Idang me punyang asavakaya vahang hotu Idang me punyang nibbanasa pacayo hotu Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Before we end, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, let us pay homage to the Tribhujan. Buddhang pujemi, Dhammang pujemi, Sanghang pujemi. Sukhi Hontu, sadhu to those who have participated from the beginning to the end of the sessions of the dedications of merits. You may continue to express your thanks to the speaker, Dd Nee Wern. We have come to the end of this 67th online Sunday Buddha Puja service. Announcement: due to the public holidays and the other events, we will have a break for some weekends. Do visit our Facebook or your society's Facebook for the information when we are going to start again. All right. May you and family be safe, happy, and peaceful. And wishing you happy Vesak. Please continue to stay safe, stay cautious. Sukhi Hontu. Goodbye. Sabbe Sattha Sukita Hontu.
Bahong sahan semabhinim mita sayudantang ngirimi kelang udita Sasena marang Dana di Dhamma vidina Jitwa